good day, my friends. It's your old pal Jordan the Lion. How are you all doing today? I hope you said great. Today we are going back to my old neighborhood, my very first neighborhood in Hollywood. We're gonna make our way over there at the end of the vlog because right across the street from my first apartment was where Bobby Fuller was found dead in his car. And I loved Bobby Fuller's music, and it's such an interesting, bizarre story to his death that I want to talk about today. So, Daze with Jordan the Lion and you all, it begins right now. And my friend still lives in that building, so he's going to let us into the garage to see where Bobby's car was found with him in it. If I remember right, Bobby Fuller is right over here. Find a Grave has removed the GPS for a lot of places, but I remember finding it pretty close to the street, so I'll look for us. Well, here he is right here. This took quite a while to find. If you come in through the main entrance down here, past the church and where this intersection is, it's kind of over here. Here's the grave of the 23-year-old Robert G. Fuller, Bobby Fuller of the Bobby Fuller 4, who, you know, a mystery to this day as to what happened. My personal, you know, belief from all of it is that it was the theory on maybe like the mob sending a message. Guy was found the day he was supposed to have a meeting with his manager, well, the record head, his band, and everybody about the future of their career. He's found dead in his mother's car in the parking lot. Rigor mortis has already set in, and the car had only been there 30 minutes from the last time she had looked. When she finds him, he's got a siphon hose in there. He's disheveled. He's laying there in a pool of blood, but his hair is all disheveled, his clothes are disheveled. That was not, he was always very put together. He looked like he had scrapes on his arms. And yet when the police came, they decided that he must have done it himself because he had ingested a half gallon of gasoline. Now, many people believe that his record label actually had something to do with this and their ties with the mob in order to recoup the money they had put into his last failed single. One of the reasons being that the record label Delphi had taken out an insurance policy of $800,000 on Bobby a month before his passing. So Bobby basically grew up in El Paso, and at an early age he learned how to play instruments. He started playing the trumpet and the keyboard, and then eventually the guitar, because he saw Elvis, became an Elvis fan. And then, of course, being in Texas, he learned to love Buddy Holly, became always closely linked to Buddy Holly. He ended up actually having his major hit eventually being I Fought the Law and the Law Won. That was a cricket song that they had recorded. But Bobby had, you know, he had loved music, and once he got out of school, he made an attempt at making a career at music. He started working on his own, put together his band, had the Bobby Fuller 4, and he would have generations of members because people would come and go and everything. But while he was doing all this, he would put together a studio at his house, and he would have a echo chamber that he had put together himself, and he would even let local bands record there for free if he would be allowed to produce them, just to work on his craft. So he came up with some of his early demos there and then moved out to Los Angeles. The band had changed their name to the Fanatics, and then when they got a deal with Delphi Records, world famous Delphi Records, they changed to the Bobby Fuller 4. Now, Delphi Records, I said world famous because I knew them from Richie Valens. Yes, Delphi Records was Richie Valens' record label. It was also Sam Cooke, both men who had had early mysterious passings. Bob Keane was kind of the creative guy behind Delphi, but there was another man named Noon that was the financial guy, and a lot of people believe he had mob ties, and that Bobby started dating a girl that he was also involved with, and that partially put a little bit of pressure on Bobby. So once he moved out to LA and the band started playing, they were playing like the Whiskey A Go-Go, and they were playing Ciro's, and they started getting money pumped into them for I Fought the Law and the Law Won. The label started dumping money in to get them played, and it was a pretty big success. Now in return, apparently in the 60s, this was the 60s, you know, the music business was mob run, and you kind of had to play ball with a label and what they ask, and Bobby was doing that, but he always wanted to make his own records. Like I said, he had created his own studio back in El Paso, so he planned on having control of his music here, and once he had a hit, he started kind of forcing the issue on that, claiming that he was going to leave the label. And some people believe that Bob Keane was trying to turn him into a pop star and get him to leave the band. His brother was in his band, and so, you know, it was a family affair, and so Bobby was kind of pushing back and had a song that he worked really hard on. They put it out, and it was a flop. They lost a lot of money on it, and that was why I said a lot of people believe that they saw the writing on the wall that Bobby wanted to leave, and if he left, they weren't going to recoup their money. So this was possibly a way of sending a message and recouping their money. It's all very mysterious. No one thinks that Bobby would have ever, you know, done this to himself, taking his life at the age of 23 years old. He had so many dreams and things musically that he wanted to do. It just didn't make sense. But he was involved in kind of a fast life, and Bob Keane from Delphi said he thought that Bobby was just naive and that he let a big town kind of influence him too much, and that he got involved in the wrong things. Mind you, these were the early days of like LSD, so there was a story out that he had got a call like 3 in the morning the night that, or the morning that he was found dead in his car, and or maybe it was even 2 o'clock. He got a phone call from a friend of his wanting him to go out to an LSD party, but even when they did a toxicology, there was no LSD in Bobby's system. So when some people, including the police, claim that this was an overdose or his actions were done based on doing drugs, it didn't hold any water. So let's head over to where Bobby's apartment was, where he was staying with his mom and his brother, and where they found him. You know you're in Hollywood when you're passing the Hollywood Bowl, and we are right here. Right over here on Sycamore Avenue. That was my first apartment building. Right there. I lived on the first floor right here, couple in. And that just so happens to be directly across the street from Bobby Fuller's apartment, which is right there. So like I said, he took off at 3 a.m. Got like a call at 2, took off at 3, and his brother thinks that somebody may have called him in distress, like saying they needed gas or they needed help, because he wasn't dressed up like he was going to a party. He was wearing just normal hanging around the house type clothes, and he took off, and then nobody heard from him all day till they found his car in the parking at 5:30 p.m. When they opened the door, they found him in there. And like I said, once police came to investigate, the parking actually is underground here, so we got my friend to let us in. But once they did their investigation, Bob Keane said when he showed up here, he saw a police officer throw the gas can in the trash. He's like, "What are you doing? That's evidence." They go, nah, he did this himself. So they pretty much had determined they were gonna say that, you know, him soaked in gas, being beaten up and all that aside, he had the siphon for the gas in his hand, so they just decided that that's how it happened. And then 2 months later, mysteriously changed it to accidental asphyxiation. And it's believed that Larry Noon, the financial man from Delphi, put pressure on the police to do it because that's the only way he could collect the insurance. One other thing about this story, neighbors said they saw a white car driving up and down this street the early morning hours and throughout the day. Yeah, and this would have been the parking even then, obviously, because it's beneath the building. I've been in this building visiting friends before. So I'm not sure if it was, some places, you know, show that it was in here. It might have even been out on the street parking, so I'll show that as well. But he was found in his mom's parking space, in her car, and he was laying in the seat with blood under his head, and his brother said that he had a ripped eyebrow, that he looked like he had been dragged across asphalt. His clothes were all disheveled, his hair was disheveled, he was all dirty and everything, and he was holding a siphon hose and was like completely doused in gasoline. So, and he had ingested a half gallon of gasoline as well. So that's kind of what they had determined, but nobody really did any fingerprint testing at all in this investigation. Like I said, Bob Keene said when he showed up, they just told him, oh, it's just another overdose crazy death, and saw the officer throwing a trash can away in the dumpster. So yeah, what a wacky like kind of end of the story. And then, like I said, they officially said it was at his doing and then changed it to accidental so that the record label could cash in the $800,000 policy that they had put out on him. And that was the end of Bobby Fuller and the Bobby Fuller 4. So I'm gonna walk down here, because if it was street parking, it would have been either here or there's another apartment here on the corner, but I don't believe that was here at the time. FYI, directly in front of us is the death hotel of Janis Joplin. I don't believe this was here. So he could have been parked over here. I just know his mother had been going out looking for the car and just checked a half an hour before. So when she found him and rigor mortis had already set in, just didn't make sense, the story that they had. You know, how could he have rigor mortis set in just 30 minutes? Here was the entryway to Bobby Fuller's last apartment. I'm kind of surprised he's buried out here. I would have just thought with his family history in El Paso he would have been buried there, but nope. Still deemed accidental asphyxiation. I think still unsolved. Like, his girlfriend Melody believes that there was a contract out on him to basically beat him up pretty bad, send a message, and then it just went too far. But his brother said there's no mistake in this. This was meant to finish him off. This building to the right used to be Henry Rollins' apartment before it was a Scientology center, and Bobby Fuller's apartment building also used to be Whoopi Goldberg's apartment building. Doing his old LA walks.